Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come in, come in, come in. This is Tamika's Den. I am Tamika. Get on in here, y'all. Listen, we gotta talk about Bel Air, okay? This is season 1, episode 4. The name of the episode was Canvas. Again, y'all, I'm loving this show. I'm loving the scenery. I'm loving the way they dressing. I'm loving the melanin that's popping, okay? In the cast. It's just all around tens for me. I'm really liking this show. And when it goes off, I just like want to talk to somebody about it. It's good. So I just finished watching episode 4. Like I told y'all originally, I had no plans on doing reviews on this, but I just gotta talk about it for a minute, y'all. Okay. um so we started out the episode with Carlton and Phil playing chess. We find out that Phil has this fundraiser coming up. He basically wants all the family to participate and help him, with this. And of course, we know that he's campaigning and trying to run for DA. At one point, he tells Carlton that he wants him and Will to try to get some voters signed up for him. And Carlton calls himself. First, he's asking him, did mom put you up to this or whatever? And he's like, no, your mom won't put me up to nothing, okay? I said what I said, all right? And he was like, would you rather do this or would you rather have 6 months of punishment? And so he's like, okay, well, can we make a deal? If I get, I think at first he said 30 or 25, voters signed up, can you get me tickets for the Grand Prix? And he was like, let's say 50. And so he agrees, to go ahead and work with Will and try to get these voters so that he can get those tickets. And so at the same time, Will is trying to get help from Lisa on this paper that he has due, and they start talking about this artist and different routes that he could take. And he's like, wow, you know a lot about this. And she was like, well, I learned about this from my mom. That used to be my mom's favorite artist. And he was like, used to be, you saying it in past tense. And we find out that Lisa's mom passed away. So of course he gives his condolences, telling her that he's sorry, he didn't know about it. And she was like, well, I don't talk about it with many people, but since you're somebody that I consider to possibly become my friend, I don't mind sharing it with you. And he's like, well, he's glad that she felt like she could share it with him, and he's looking forward to her being his friend too. In the meantime, we see somebody watching him from a car. So I'm like, oh Lord, they done found him already. I'm like, these guys are serious, huh? They really want Will bad. They gonna track him all the way down from Philly. Because remember last episode, the video had got out of him playing basketball and the guy was saying gotcha. So I'm like, Dad, they really, going hard to get Will. So Will asked Lisa if she's still coming to Uncle Phil's fundraiser. She's like, yeah, she's gonna be there, whatever have you. And you have Aunt Viv doing Ashley's hair and talking about the history of hair. I love when they incorporate stuff like that in there. And then, you see that Ashley's kind of like busy texting with somebody. Apparently, she done met some friends online. And she trying to be sneaky with that. And Viv is asking her who she's texting. And she's like, nobody. And then, Ashley kind of changes the subject to on Viv and why, she put her stuff on hold and why she's not doing certain things now and just focusing on, Uncle Phil stuff. And she tells her, like, it was one point when he was doing that for me. And when you in a relationship with somebody, a marriage of all these years, you do it for the person too. Since he held off on all his stuff when I was pursuing my dreams, I'm basically just doing the same thing for him now. And so she was like, your father just really needs all of us to stand with him and support him. Can you understand that? And she says, yes, she can. And so then, he gets a call from Trey. Well, Trey tells him they know where he's at. And he's like, how? Because they still don't know that they saw this video. And Trey's like, I don't know, but I know that he does know that you did and you need to watch your back. So this, of course, gets Will nervous, and he goes in to talk to Uncle Phil about it because remember, nobody else is supposed to know about the situation. And he kind of asks Jeffrey, like, do you know what's going on with me and why I really came here? And Jeffrey gives him the full breakdown, like, yeah, you got into it on the basketball court and you got this guy, dating going after you. He knows his full name and everything. So Will was looking like, huh? So then he's like, well, they know I'm here and we gotta hurry up and do something. And he's telling Will, like, calm down, calm down, calm down. I got this. I'm gonna handle it. And I'm like, wait a minute, Jeffrey. Okay, how you handling it, boo? What's going on? Okay, we got more going on with Mr. Jeffrey than we know about, and I need his backstory, and I need to know what's happening with him because he's kind of giving me, if you watch Power, he's giving me Chef vibes. Okay, but hopefully he will not be going out like Chef. I definitely think there's more to him. So he's telling Will that he's gonna handle it for Will to go ahead and just, continue with what he doing. Don't worry about it. And so Will says, okay. We then have Hillary talking to these online influencers where she's trying to get into an influencer house. Since her mom and them have now said, that she should move out and get her own thing and all of that, this is the route that she's trying to go in. Right now, she's not really finding anybody that she's, meshing with that she feels like she can go to or that has been accepting her so far. So that's been frustrating for her. And when she comes in, I'm sorry, we then had on Viv, and she's talking about Peyton again. I think between the conversation with Hillary from last time and the conversation with Ashley now, it's kind of got her thinking about the fact that she put her stuff on hold, and that she, was doing her own art before and now has became a teacher that's teaching other people about art instead of doing it. And so she's saying that she want to get back into her painting and she's reclaiming her time. Okay, I ain't mad at it. And so, you know, we had Hillary come in and see Will playing the piano, and she was like, wait a minute, you play the piano? And he was like, yeah, I had, whatever amount of lessons, and then my mom couldn't afford a piano, so she used to just write the different, notes and keys or whatever on a cardboard, and I would practice from there. And so Ashley's like, well, damn, I had 10 years worth of lessons and you are doing better than me. Okay. And he did sound good up there, and he could tell something was going on in him and Hillary, I should say. Him and Hillary seem like they're gonna have the bond. In the original series, we know that Ashley and him had the bond. Here it seems like it's more of a connection with him and Hillary, and he could tell there's something bothering her. He's asking her, well, what's going on? And she says to him, my mom and dad is starting to say that I need to get out the house, that I could do my own thing now, and that type of stuff. But she was like, I'm not finding no influencers that want me, and then when I look up at apartments, they're crazy, expensive. I don't think I would be able to survive that way. And he was like, oh, so you basically understanding how it feels to be poor. And she's like, yeah, it sucks, and this and that. And then he just basically says, well, yeah, I know, I've been knowing how that feels since I was born. And she's like, oh, shut up, Will, but it's the truth. And so then she just so happens to spill the beans as far as Carlton making the deal with Phil, because she was like, oh yeah, you going with us, to do this fundraiser thing. And she was like, well, Carlton is not doing it for nothing. And he was like, well, what you mean by that? And she was like, oh, you don't know, he basically has a deal with my dad, to get him these Grand Prix tickets if y'all get 50 voters. And so he was like, oh, okay. And she was like, yeah, you got to learn how to, make your way around here, okay, and make you some deals of your own. And so with her saying that, he sees Aunt Viv struggling bringing in these boxes, and he's like, oh, Aunt Viv, I got you. And he comes over to help her, and he tries to strike up his own deal with her. And basically he asks, if Trey could come visit him. She like, sure, one day he probably can. She like, well, what about tomorrow? She's like, well, what's going on? Why he needs to come so fast? Is everything okay? He like, no, everything's okay. So then he makes the deal with her that if he works with Carlton with no problem and get these voter signatures, would she consider sending for Trey and letting him come by the end of the week? She says she could go for that. That seems like a fair enough deal. And so they both are set, okay, to make these deals that say they could work together, but we know how Will and Carlton do. So it's like, will they succeed? And then everybody just has like their assignment. Will and Carlton, of course, supposed to be getting the votes. Vivian would be standing by him. Ashley and Hillary would be putting up different posters and passing out different stuff to the stores. And so him and Viv end up having a conversation after they have their little family meeting and send everybody on their way, telling them what they're going to be doing. And at one point, Will even asked Jeffrey, like, well, we all got something to do with you doing. And he was like, oh, I'm just staying back, and taking care of stuff from here. And so you had Uncle Phil tell Aunt Viv, some of the voters feel like you come out, a little bit too snooty sometime, having too much stuff to say, giving too much of your opinion. She was like, well, why don't I just stay here and not go at all, or why don't I keep my mouth shut? And he's telling her, no, that's what I fell in love with. I love that about you. I don't want you to do that, but can you just calm it down a little bit and kind of hold your tongue? And she says she'll hold her tongue for now. But once he gets voted in, she can't make any promises. And he was like, I'm okay with that. And so then we have Carlton and Will going knocking on these doors. They must have had like maybe 20 doors shut in their face. At this point, Carlton is the one that's been doing most of the talking, and ain't nobody been trying to hear what the hell he's saying. And so, he tells Will, like, obviously this is not working. We not getting no signatures at this rate. We not going to get nobody. Will is like, okay, well, what are you saying? You need my help? And he's like, yeah, it would be nice. I have to admit, I don't have the way of talking like you do. And then, Will tells him, well, for one, you got to stop being like these people and acting like, they some damn aliens from some other planet or something. And you have to be able to relate to them and talk about stuff that they care about. And so once Will starts doing it, he is starting to get people. But then him and Carlton, of course, have another, you know, conflict where he's not liking the way that, Will is talking about Blue Lives Matter and things of that nature. And he's like, you can't just go around saying that type of stuff. And he was like, I know some of the people could be, whatever way, but not all conservatives is that way. And, basically getting into that whole topic. And of course, they end up having another argument. And then, they kind of go their separate ways and say they need to calm down for a minute. And so Hillary, meets Jazz at the record store, and we find out Jazz owns this record store, okay, and he does, I guess, multiple businesses, gets his hustle on. And Ashley seems to know him already because she's like, oh, Jazz, I'm gonna just leave these over here. But it's like it's Hillary and Jazz first time, actually, I guess, being cordially introduced to each other. Like they've known of each other, they saw each other, I guess, when he dropped Will off at the house. And so, some kind of way they start talking. She even mentions to him about what she's going through with the whole influencer thing. And she's shocked to find that he has no social media. So she like, no, I'm going to help you. Are you crazy? Not even an Instagram. I got to set that up for you and stuff like that. And in the meantime, Ashley is like, oh, I'm going next door. I'm going to step out for a minute. She's like, okay, don't go far. Man, Ashley over here putting on daggone lip gloss. Done daggone called a ride, was texting back and forth, basically planning to meet up with these kids that she met online, and had my nerves all kind of crazy because I'm like, Ashley, girl, what are you doing? You don't know these people and you don't know who this could be. But she basically go ahead, and in the meantime, Phil and Aunt Viv are having this meeting, with some of these potential voters and donors, and it's a couple there, and the wife notices Vivian is saying, you so familiar. Was you a dancer, actor, singer? She's like, no. And then Phil makes the comment, she used to be a painter. And you could tell that kind of upset Viv. And then she's like, oh, I do know you. And you had the mural up in the school. And they say how the mural and the school is no longer there. And so when they leave, she basically kind of was like, why did you say I used to be a painter? She was like, if you a painter, you a painter. There's no use to. And he apologizes to her, for that. And so, in the meantime, you got Ashley hanging out, eating popcorn, all comfortable. You got Hillary still not even knowing that she's gone. She's busy, talking on her social media and recording Jazzy and helping him, make his social media profile and all this different kind of stuff. And we find out in the mix of this, when we see Jeffrey, that the person we saw watching Will talking to Lisa was not the people from Philly, was apparently somebody that Jeffrey and them done hooked up to watch them. And he's telling the guy, like, okay, we gonna have to go to some other moves now, because apparently they had paid Denton $10,000 to stay away. And now that he knows that they are worth much more than that, he wants more. Okay, he's not okay with the 10,000 no more. And so Jeffrey is like, when the guy's like, so what do we do now? What's the next step and all that? He's like, you know what to do, because we ain't paying him no more than that. Okay, that was the best offer he was gonna get. So I'm like, whoa, okay, I see y'all. And so, like I said, Ashley's hanging with these friends, watching Jurassic Park, eating popcorn, and you can see it's kind of like a boy girl thing going here, like they on little dates. And the guy was just getting comfortable, about to put his arm around Ashley to, watch the movie with her. And here come Mr. Jeffrey just walking up in there, popping up out of nowhere. Okay, talking about Ashley, are you ready to go? And he basically tells her like, you can't just sneak around and leave like that or whatever have you. And there are dangerous people out here. If you would just come out and talk to your parents, they probably would be happy that you having different people you meet. And but we do have to be safe with it. And so I liked, that. And I was like, okay, you can't get nothing past Jeffrey. He watching everything. Okay, he got his ears to the street. And he done did a daggone check on them and all that. And so once Will and Carlton get back together, they find out that Will behind done went and invited all the voters. He talking about, well, what's the problem? All the people he was talking to. He got a bunch of the signatures, but he done invited all of them for them to come in here, Phil, and be able to ask him questions in person. And they was like, this is not the kind of event this was supposed to be. This was supposed to be for private donors. So now this turns into a whole nother thing. And he was like, well, why does it have to? Why not talk to the people and hear from the people? And so they do work it out that they're going to do that. And it's at a skating rink. So they getting it in, skating, partying, all of them getting down. Viv seems super excited to see Lisa. Like they had a good relationship. She's telling her it's been too long since they had a girls' night. She wants her to come and hang out with her. Jeffrey comes up to Ashley again, like, it's hard being a kid, isn't it? He was like, well, wait till you get an adult, okay? It only gets harder. And he actually had invited her friends to the rink, and that makes her super happy, and, to see them. And then we find out that Lisa's dad is the chief of police. Will was in the bathroom with him. Did not know that, this. And, of course, he started kind of getting that PTSD flashes from the event when he seen him coming with his uniform. And he kept stressing to him, like, about, wow, I didn't know you was the police. And he's like, yeah, I'm the chief of police. And so, of course, I think that's going to have his bells ringing. It already seemed like it was kind of ringing just for him meeting him the first day that he arrived at the house. I didn't really realize he was a police chief either. They never said. And, he goes up to Lisa and says to her as well, you never told me about this. And she was like, I didn't think that was anything important that I had to tell you. I don't understand what that has to do with anything. And so, of course, nobody understands the correlation because nobody really knows the real story why Will ended up there, to begin with. And he kind of has an attitude with her, but it's like it's not really a reason to have an attitude with her. And then she was like, I don't know what your father does either. And he's like, well, my father was never around. That bastard been left from back in the days. And she was like, oh, I'm sorry. He was like, there's nothing to be sorry about. I don't know him, and there's nothing to even talk about there. And so, I'm wondering which way they gonna take it with that as well. But after everything finishes, he gets up there to give his speech. It seems like it's going good, and he's actually saying like, they should defund the police and they should make changes from prison to court and, all of that, that the whole system needs things that needs to be changed because it's more than just about that. It's actually how the laws is made up, and, this is a DA's job. So on the one hand, the crowd is liking what he's saying, but on the other hand, the police chief that's there and some other people are giving the side eye. You already know how that goes because, he was saying to Aunt Viv initially when they was having a conversation about this that certain things he wouldn't want to say and come out for until after he's elected. And she was like, that's fine and dandy, but some things you're going to have to stand up and say now and stick to your guns and mean it and speak from your heart. And if you don't, then you're not going to get elected in the first place. So when it came to this part, you could kind of see him giving her the look like he didn't know whether he should say it or not. And she just shook her head up and down like, yeah, go ahead. So they come home super happy, saying everything went good. Jeffrey tells Phil he needs to speak to him for a minute. Carlton and Will kind of talk for a minute, and they say, it wasn't so bad. We came together when we needed to. And Carlton did stand up for Will when it came to, saying how they shouldn't worry about the fact that he invited all the people there. And so they was like, we could kind of call it, like, peace for a minute or whatever. Like, we can work with each other as we are. At the end of the day, I'm not going to be able to change you and how you feel. You're not going to be able to change me and how I feel. And so they agree to that, and they say, good night, truce. That's the word I was looking for. Sometimes I'll be forgetting. And then we have Hillary that she finally got accepted into Influencer House. So when Vivian comes in the room and she's ready to drink some champagne with her and she tells her, she was like, well, what is this going to cost you? You know, I never heard of something like that before. And she was like, Mom, it's not going to cost me nothing. And Aunt Viv says to her, nothing is free. And she gets mad and was like, why can't you just be happy for me, and walks out. But the fact of the matter is, Hillary, nothing is free, sweetie. Everything costs something. I gotta agree with your mom on that part, okay? And then we have the episode ending with Trey calling Will and telling him Rashad is dead. And Will like, dead? What do you mean? What are you talking about? Who killed him? How did it happen? He was like, I don't know none of that, but all I know is he's dead and gone, and that's not something we have to worry about anymore. Okay, at first Will was calling him to tell him that he would be able to come there for a visit because of the fact, Viv told him it was okay. And now with this news, Will is thinking, and if he's thinking what I'm thinking, he is like, yo, Jeffrey said he was going to handle it. And that was basically how the episode went off. I am just so curious of Jeffrey's backstory, and I'm just, looking forward to seeing what the heck else they got in store for us. So far, so good with this one, y'all. If you like how it's going so far, tell me if you enjoying it. What you like, what you don't like, and make sure you like, share, subscribe. Okay, till next time. Toodaloo.